Welcome to our podcast, Proper Cuppa Tea, the show where you can put your feet up and have a good old natter. Thank you for tuning in today. We're going to unwind, relax, and have a nice cup of tea. So here we are, live on our broadcast. I've just blown Sandie.
I've got no idea what she's doing already. It's going to be chaos.
It's going to be chaos, isn't it? There's two Beckys in here.
God.
So I'm Becky, founder of Spark Community Space, and who do we have this morning?
My name is Becky Lodge. I'm the founder of Little Kanga Limited and also run Startup Disruptors, which is the largest online SME business community in the Solent region and apparently the UK now. So.
Wow, there we go. And who else have we got?
And I'm Sandie, and I'm sitting here in the presence of two wonderful Beckys and two wonderful women, and I just want to sit and listen and interject every now and then.
You can interject, Sandie.
You'll have to stop us, Sandy, to be fair, because otherwise we'll be on a 19-hour-long podcast.
Yeah,
so I literally, just so that people don't know this, I walked into the podcast room and all I heard was knicker drawer. Now, ladies, would you like to discuss this any further?
Well, I kind of came in, I've known Sandie and Becky a really long time, obviously, so this isn't just what we normally open with, to be fair. But I said after moving into my new house in June last year, I'd finally got round to organising my knicker drawer.
Oh,
and I'm really proud of that moment.
It's a thing of beauty.
It's the procrastination since last June of actually going to the shop to get all of the organiser things. That's the procrastination.
Yeah.
And then tipping out everything and thinking, wow, I think 1970 might have been the last time that was worn. Although I was born in 1971, so it might be a bit of a struggle. But yeah,
so I was born 1971. There we go. We're snapping again, aren't we?
Oh, I know.
How cool is this? And the funny thing is I don't know about you ladies, but I've got knickers for different occasions.
Oh yes,
you've got your big knickers.
Yeah. We all know what those are for.
Comfort knickers.
Yeah. You've got your everyday basics.
You've got period pants.
You've got, absolutely. Mm-hmm. You've now probably moving more into menopausal pants. You know what that is, ladies, at that age. And then you have your small, sexy ones that don't ever come out anymore. Is that a fair assumption, ladies?
Those are the ones that I think if your hair's long enough, you use them to do a messy bun with. Apparently that's a movement now on TikTok, which is use your knickers to put up your messy bun.
Well, if you use my knickers, it's more like a parachute.
That's it.
Anyway, moving on.
Balaclava.
See, that's what I like about these podcasts is there is no script.
I know, and we know that. We can definitely see that.
But what I wanted, people probably don't know this, Becky, that we met online very first time.
We did.
The very first time we met, it was online. And it was at COVID time. Mm. And I remember saying, I've got this idea. And I had the vision of Spark before we were just an online coffee morning and I was on every networking. Emma Weatherstone just kept me putting on all these different Zoom calls saying, Becky, you need to talk to this one. You need to talk to this one. And then I found you. And I remember doing a crowdfunder. And the guy that helped me do this crowdfunder, his name was Mike, David Mike. Oh, he's got a funny name. Anyway,
Mike Davis Mark.
That's the one, because I could never get it right. I could never get his name right.
I have to fill in the blanks, you see, that's what I'm here for.
And he said to me, so Becky, how this works is you need to do this. And I'm like, well, you do it for me and I'll just press go. And that's basically what happened. And he said to me, you need an expensive item. You need something that somebody, because we were going to go for £10,000 because we knew that the rent on this place was 16 for that very first year. And I went, no one is going to pay £500 for a concept to have their plaque in our shop, in our cafe. And he said, just do it. And I went, okay. And then the next thing I knew, you bought that.
Yes.
And so the reason why I always say Becky is what she says she is because you are startup disruptors. And Spark was a startup and you were like, and I've seen you do it many times before, you are the first in there to say to somebody, I'll back you when you've done a bit of research, because obviously some people will just come to you for they've got a good idea, but you actually want to see them done a bit of effort first. And then you'll go, right, I'll back you. And that's exactly what you did. You paid the £500, you got your plaque in the cafe, and you were the very first person to go. And I remember going to my husband, Matt, you're not going to believe this. And that was the very first time we ever linked.
The best thing was, though, and I'll continue the story. We haven't scripted this because we haven't really told it before, not publicly.
We've never told that story.
So it's like, ooh, exclusive. After I had donated, she found me on Facebook, actually. And she sent me this message via Messenger going, basically, I don't know you, I think was the opener.
Yeah, I'm very blunt on my...
I don't know you, but we clearly needed to have a chat because you've just put up some money for my crowdfund. And then we met up and she was explaining the idea. But I think I need to put it into context. This is what I've spent my whole life doing.
Yes.
Is basically, I had a 25-year corporate career, horizon scanning, backing the best thing, looking, at the risk coming over the hill. That's my only talent, to be fair, as well as talking, second talent. And I always was looking for, what do we back next as a business? What do we back next to make money? What do we, back? Who do we back? Because it's not actually what you're backing, because there's no such thing as a new idea.
No.
There really isn't. And people are now, obviously I'm in technology and people say, well, Uber and Airbnb, they're not new ideas. They're just a different way of delivering an existing service using somebody else's inventory. So I look at things and not look at just the concept, is who's the person behind the thing? Because actually that's the driver. And if that person isn't driven and motivated and passionate and a bit daft, because you've got to be a bit daft to do this, then you're not going to make the cut and you're not going to be in it for the long haul. So you're right. When you look at people, it's about saying, are they here for the right reasons? Mm-hmm. Because money is not the right reason. I'm really sorry. I've probably broken a lot of people's hearts, and it makes me very unpopular when I say that. If you're not truly on a mission, people can see that. Yeah. If you're adopting a mission and vision and values to actually say that you've got one, I'm sorry, I can see that. So to me, it's who looks unique and is unique and is really loving and kind and generous and in it for the right reasons, and you're going to win. You'll get a lot of charlatans on the way trying to derail you. You'll get a lot of people appropriating your brand once you become successful for their success and their wants and their needs. But ultimately, you will win if you have those drivers. And when you explained to me what Spark stood for, as a person who has always never fit in, because I have ADHD and a wildly neurodivergent head, I thought, right, there is no space here that I can see in Portsmouth that does this for all age groups. And I would like to be able to, like I have today, come in and talk to somebody about my knicker drawer without any judgment.
Yes.
And I couldn't see that. I can see a lot of, very pretentious often places that pretend that they're doing the right things. And again, I'm very blunt. I'm very honest, and that really switches a lot of people off. But I can't see, or I couldn't see a place where people felt wanted, loved, included, not judged, welcomed from the moment that they walked in. And also, I mean, I'm lucky it's actually audio today because I haven't put my new makeup on again. And I think
great?
It's fantastic. That's why audio is my preferred format. And I think that's also really important because as you age, and Sandie and I were talking about this earlier, and as you age, you become invisible. And actually, I said, as a raging introvert, that's actually everything I could ever have wished for. But it's difficult, when you start up. I know the pain. I'd seen everything you went through. You had a great deal of support. You ran a test trial with Richard Peckham at Sherlock's, and he gave you a home, and that was really important. To test trial, would it work? What was the concept? Get some traction, get some people behind you. But then what you see is the people that you scale with aren't the people that you start with, because often the people that you start with don't want you to succeed, and that's really hard. So you get a lot of people drop off at that point when perhaps you're reflecting parts in them that aren't going to succeed. So it's very much about emotional intelligence starting up. And it isn't about, I'm going to start a thing and make some money, I'm going to get some punters and build this fantastic thing. But I think your vision for me, I could just see what you were going to build. I could even see in my own brain what it was going to look like. And that's probably one of my core skills, is that I can actually look at a place and say, how do we monetize it? How do we, make it happen? And that's what I said to you. So I immediately walked in and said, right, this is what you do to monetize the space. This is the kind of stuff you need to do. You need to structure it to get the revenue. You need to be sensible about it because it's expensive running a business.
It's very
Very, very expensive
I
running
think
a business.
we've just done our...
No matter what kind of business with charity, social enterprise,
It's-
it's freaking expensive.
We actually, because I am a little bit, I like being in my Becky bubble. I'll be honest with you.
we like the Becky bubble though.
I don't like the responsibility side of it, but I know that goes with it. And last year, on our first year opening, we actually did a little bit of a check-in with the accountants, and our running costs was £120,000.
Which is what I told you, I think. Because I stood here actually when she opened, she said, this is the shell. And I went, great, it's fantastic. We can monetize this. And I said, it's going to cost you, I said, on average, between 100 to 150K per annum to operate this space. And she looked at me and went, no, it's not. It's not. I can just sell more tat and, and everything for a £5. And I said, you can do that, but that's a really time-intensive way of doing it.
And it's quite interesting because I've often sat here and I look at what's been created, and if I'd have known it was as big as it has been now, I would never have started, because my aim was never to be bigger or anything like that. I just wanted a space for somebody that didn't have anything to come in for a cup of tea. And so for me, it's not where does it grow, where does it evolve, that takes a natural form with me, because for me, this is what I would never wanted it. I never dreamed it would be like what? It has. I do find it quite hilarious because I have been approached.
I'm going to challenge her on that because I don't believe that's true.
Well, I have been approached for it to go a little bit more.
I know,
pop-uppy and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I get that. But right now, I still can't believe that we are as big as what we are. And I look at my team, and I just think every one of them is precious. Everyone, it's a privilege to come into work and go, you're in the Spark team. Mm-hmm. And I find it a privilege to look round at our team and think, oh my goodness. And there are times when I think, oh, for goodness sake, would you get the Hoover out? And I just think, can't you see the obvious? But inside, I'm jumping up and down going, this is a real precious group of people that come in, and then they're supporting over 40 volunteers now.
Mm. But it just shows that authenticity that Becky... middle Becky, rather.
The Lodge, just call me
the Lodge. That authenticity that Becky described, that you embody, attracts people. So there's no way it was going to stay small, because people see realness and see it and want to be part of it and want to be in it.
And I agree, Sandie. And I think the issue is that whilst you might not be driven.
I'm driven.
She's driven.
I'm driven, but I'm not driven.
Okay, so I'll quantify myself. Whilst you're not driven in the sense of I want to take over the world,
I'm driven so that no one feels alone.
I'm driven to take over the world.
Yeah, you can do that bit.
So that's why it's a great partnership, because you need to build a team where other people can see the things you can't see.
Yes.
Okay, and the one thing that you learn being, and we'll use whatever label we like, either send or special or, I don't care. I don't want a label. It's just, Becky Simmons is Becky Simmons, Becky Lodge is Becky Lodge, Sandie is Sandie. It doesn't make any difference to me. You're born with a unique gift. Only one or two, normally. Any more's greedy. Most people are only good at one or two things. And actually our gift, and I think it's Pablo Picasso said this, our role in life is to find our gift, and then to be a decent person in life is to then give that gift away. So I spent a lot of time making a lot of people really, really rich. That was my job, and I got fed up of doing that, because there's nothing in your heart. There's nothing waking you up in the morning. There's nothing helping you fill up your spiritual bubble. Whether you're religious or not, it doesn't matter. You've got to have a reason to want to wake up. And actually, what I look at is who can I help that is doing really cool things with the skills that I have. And actually, this inclusion, piece for me is massive. And we've seen a lot of political change in the last 6 to 12 months, especially, where we're seeing DEI being taken off the table at corporate level, which is massively alarming.
Very alarming.
Massively alarming. So as long as there's breath in my body, that's not going to happen. So I've helped, 5,000, and I think it's 5,556 founders so far, I'm very specific on the numbers, start and scale their visions. We've helped them raise over 6.5 million through debt and equity finance to do that. And that's a serious thing. You know, we started off talking about money control, but but women do business in different ways. And also women's businesses are more profitable. And those are the stats. If anybody wants to argue, go and read the stats first. So what I'm saying to anybody that's listening to this is, if you want to bet on people, bet on women. If you want to bet on people, bet on women over the age of 45.
Oh, that's me.
And that is
looking
actually
hopeful. It's a good statistic.
A narrative at the moment is really unpleasant and unpalatable to a lot of people, because actually it means a lot of fundamental change in their worlds.
Yep.
So what we've got to do is actually look at how we're building those businesses in a responsible way. You know, and we're building a tech platform called Desk to Educate to help women and neurodivergent people get access to education for the first time, degree level education and apprenticeships. And that is because neurodivergent people want to access education in different ways. They don't learn traditionally well in classrooms.
Yep.
So we actually have to stop ignoring 51% of the population in the country, because only 1 in 6 businesses in Britain is owned by a woman, which is tragic when we make up 51% of the population. So we can change the narrative around charitable giving, social enterprise, for profit, which is really important. But we need to do that together. And actually providing spaces where women feel heard and neurodivergent people feel heard is critical to that ecosystem. So my frustration in 2015-16 was I couldn't see a space that supported anybody like me. I couldn't see a networking event or, and I've been a business developer all my life. I've been to more breakfasts where you can bounce, rubber bacon and sausages off the floor than anybody else possibly has. And to do the market research for Startup Disruptors, I think I went to 268 events in Portsmouth, which were
There's a lot in Portsmouth though, isn't there?
Which all service different areas in their own way, but not particularly well for digital, tech, creative and B2B businesses, or those with much bigger ideas that were perhaps new in terms of delivery. And this was men and women. However one identifies, he, she, they, them, doesn't matter to me. If you've got a great business idea, then, come on, we'll talk to you about it. But for me, it was very much about how do we change the narrative away from being quite traditional, quite pale, male and stale. And I've used the trio
I do love the way you talk, because it's so quite pale, male and stale.
Sorry.
I love that.
But I'm not apologising for it anymore. And actually not go to places where I felt people were being exploited, or people were just spraying business cards around and saying, buy my stuff. And it's like, your stuff's rubbish. Why would I buy it? And that was the problem. And there was no sort of cognition around that. So one of our first sponsors was Uber. We had University of Portsmouth Business School has sponsored us for a decade now, coming up for a decade. And it was about saying we need to create those spaces. And the way that you create those spaces is by backing more people like you. So actually, who is attracted to your space are more people like you. And actually, that's when you build traction and you build an army, because those people are watching. Those people are watching for a really long time. They'll lurk for a really long time.
Do you know what? I didn't realise, because you told me once at the very start, it was a very good warning. And I was like, no one would do that. And you said, watch out for people that will jump on.
Yeah.
Because of what you're creating. And that did happen. And also what you also said was those that are at the start will not be at the finish. And I remember a few people left along the way, and I cried for so long thinking I'd done something wrong. And it wasn't anything to do with me. It was about the fear in them, or the fact that, oh my gosh, this is not what they'd envisaged. Well, that's fine, because what Spark is what the community needed. So it was like it grew, and I was but that's helped me not be so, it's not personal.
Okay, so I can explain this sociologically, because I'm really that much of a nerd. So if you look at the statistics, Portsmouth has very low social aspiration.
Yeah.
And when you have low social aspiration, and again, it's statistics, so please don't come at me, you have a certain behaviour set that goes with that, which tends to be short-termism, cash short-termism, so what I call screw somebody over for 20 quid. And you can't live in a community being like that. So your community never evolves and your economic development never evolves because actually you're not operating in a high trust place. So what Startup Disruptors did and what we need to do is move people away from these short-termist, kind of finger-pointy, backstabby behaviours to more of a aspirational city where we can say, right, if you come here, you will be protected. Yeah. You will be looked after, you will be funded, you will feel psychologically safe, because psychological safety is massive, both for what you do in your space, but also what you do in business, because you can't perform in a business unless you have psychological safety. So when you build high performance sales teams, if you have one person who's a rock star, you have to get rid of them, because it doesn't matter how much revenue they're bringing in, they will destroy the psychological safety of that team. So you look at how you transpose that model into a startup ecosystem, which is how we built Startup Disruptors. And then you actually create that place of psychological safety through linked spaces throughout the city. We're still not there yet, and we're going to be a long time off. We're probably about 20, 30 years away from it, but we're now 10 years in. And in 2020, Startup Disruptors, with its partnerships with 50 plus SMEs and corporates in Britain, made Portsmouth the most entrepreneurial city in the UK per head of population outside of London. Now, nobody knew that we'd done that because other people took credit for it. Absolutely, because that's what people do. But that was us, pub meetups, crying every Friday night, thinking, what am I doing? I've got to give up. It's too hard. Nobody believes me. I remember when we got Uber as the first sponsor, somebody took me to one side and said, is your mental health all right? Because nobody's going to believe that you've got this sponsor because you've made this up, haven't you? And my response to him was, have you read my CV on LinkedIn? Have you seen what I've done in the past? Have you
actually done your due diligence?
Done your homework, love?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there's an assumption that often men come with, and some women, that they look at you and think, oh, she looks like a really sort of comfortable, Dawn French-esque, middle-class, middle-aged Waitrose shopper, so she must be fairly safe.
What's wrong with Waitrose?
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with Waitrose. I'd aspire to shop there every week if I could. Yeah. But I think it's that assumption that there isn't that kind of, for want of a better phrase, killer instinct in you to want to actually win. And I think where you go back to, levels of low social aspiration again, it's they want to win, but they want to win at all costs. Yeah. And that's not what winning's about.
No, it's a community together.
Winning's about teams. Yeah. Winning's about, and there is a cheesy saying, which is teamwork makes the dream work. You cannot do it alone. If you're going to do it alone, one or two things are going to happen. You're going to burn out, or you're going to get found out. So burn out or found out, because people very quickly can see who you are, what you stand for, how you operate. Yeah. And I said to you, this is the first time today that we've actually talked about this, because it makes me extremely uncomfortable, because I'm the person who says you should just be getting on with it. Yeah. It's the people that are talking about it aren't the people actually doing the work.
But that's something I know as we come to finishing off this amazing podcast is I wish people could see that that's what Spark is about, seeing the unseen, hearing the unheard. And so therefore the team behind Spark are also not seen and not heard. And that's why it's nice to shine a light today on the fact that you were the very first person as a business that went, I'm in. And then straight after you, when we got the keys to this place, Brian from GRP Solutions, he went, I'm in. You don't hear them shout about it on any platform whatsoever. And then the other person was John from Island Tea and Coffee, Chris from Zinc IT. These guys, without any hurrah, literally were the team behind the scenes. And so now it's a privilege to have you on this podcast to say thank you, Becky, because you were it gave me that, yes.
I love you, kiddo. You know that. It's just, it's more than just a business relationship. And that's what high trust environments are about. It's about creating spaces where people feel safe.
Yeah.
And,
And you were there at the beginning.
And that's it. And
you
that's
can hear
my responsibility is to create more spaces
Yes.
where people can feel safe. And leaders create more leaders.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that we have when people are trying to throw stones at us.
You can hear the hubble bubble in the background.
You can hear the clattering
and
of the
that's
stone-
because
the
now we're
stones on the
open at
window.
Spark. We're open now, and everyone's like coming in. And I forgot to tell them that there's actually a live podcast being filmed. So that's my fault, because I love a bit of what shouldn't happen, and the fact that it's spontaneous. But today, Becky, it's been a privilege to say you were the very first company at Startup Disruptors and Little Kanga. And I remember thinking, who the heck is Little Kanga? What does it stand for? But I am just forever grateful. So know that today.
Yeah,
and yes,
you.
we will continually talk about the knicker drawer when we're off air. So it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye, and thanks very much, Becky, for taking the time to talk to me today, and for Sandie Sandy's just here for crowd control.
Yes, I am. Well, I'm trying.
Yeah, well, she's trying, but it didn't work, did it?
No.
We'd love to
But it's
next
nice.
time, maybe.
But it's nice also to have Sandie on, because what most people don't know, Sandie was the very first person I went to and said, I've got this idea. Should I set up as a charity? What does it look like? And Sandie was, well, what's the end goal? And Sandie at the time worked for an amazing organisation in the city, and her job was to literally be helping me just find those steps. And so actually it's an honour to have Sandie in the team now.
Whoop, whoop.
I know. What an
and so,
absolute blinder you pulled there. So how did she do it? What was the prime? No.
Well, we always talk about the knicker drawer.
It was cakes and toasties, wasn't it? I think Sandie and I are fairly simple creatures. It's probably
World
cakes,
famous
toasties.
cheese toast.
So this is going to be the longest sign off, isn't it?
It doesn't matter though, because that's what I love about us. It's a bit
Yes.
rambling. And anyway, I think we're only on 26 minutes and 31. So if you're thinking about half an hour, then we've still got a bit more to film.
Yeah.
So, but today Sandie was the one that, if I had a dream team at the very start of a wish list of people, it would have been to have Sandie in the team. So I could not believe it when she's in my team.
I know, very lucky.
So
I mean,
to
sometimes
me-
you look around you and you kind of think, how the hell did all this happen?
Yeah.
And I think it's, when I went and I brought some of our Startup Disruptors members to Sherlock's, and we
I still remember that.
Yeah,
yes.
I got the photo of that as well.
Yeah.
And we had, little on pavement sort of bistro-esque cafe moment outside with a few of us. And I just thought, I can see where she's going with it. I can see, that she's not going to stop. And actually, it's just about being unstoppable.
Yeah.
And
But it's about not letting people take your spark.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people out there, even to this day, that will say it's okay for you. Excuse me?
Yeah.
Have you walked my feet? Have you done my journey? Because if you did, you'd know that every day is a struggle sometimes, and you just think, but it's worth it. Every day it's worth it.
And certainly from sort of the outside coming in, I thought I knew what Spark was about. I thought I got Spark, but it's only after joining that I've realised how big and how it's sort of like the networks go. And that's hard work, and it's not just gifted.
It isn't.
It's about sort of like working at it and being passionate about it and just following it and all the time saying, no, I'm not going to take the knockbacks. No, I'm not going to take the people who won't champion somebody else. I'm going to just stay in my lane, which is what Becky.
I always say,
do it, and then the lane grows because people recognise that. And so
what I would say is, I don't want people to ever think that this isn't a serious enterprise and it's not a serious thing. All joking apart, we have a laugh and a giggle along the way, but the fact of the matter is that we create things to create very, very real change and seismic change. This is seismic when you look at what you've created and look at the other people that have come out of the network that we've built, and we've helped people build those businesses. So, and that's having a massive economic impact. Because you look at the social enterprise sector and charity sectors and how many billions they put into the economy. Those are serious businesses. And then alongside that sits the private sector where I sit. And we have to create an ecosystem where we all help each other. And GRP, Brian, is a classic example of a multi-million-pound company. So we've got some some serious players, and I think that's sometimes what people can't comprehend. Is that, well, clearly you can't be serious. It's just a nice little thing and you get a bit of a virtual head pat. And actually that needs to stop. And you need to stop approaching women in that way, both in this city and nationally and internationally, and actually sit down with people and seek to understand what it is that they're doing, because actually if you have a vision the way that you have, that's going to be unassailable and unstoppable. And you look at something like Spark, and I said to you at the beginning, I can see you franchising this into every city in the UK. And that's how I would build it with you. And that's really important.
We have been approached for that. And I'm just a bit like, I remember something Brian said.
Yeah, I'll stop
to
you there.
me.
We're going to do it.
Yes.
So it's fine.
I remember Brian, and I always shout about Brian because he hates it.
I know.
He really hates it.
I think I met Brian briefly years ago. But Brian, I'm just saying it anyway.
Yeah.
Congrats and well done. And
But
thank
he
you.
says, we do the right thing because it's the right thing.
Yeah.
And that's his strapline. And it was a real privilege. And I remember my husband really interrogated him when he said he was in, because my husband was like, well, are you really in? What does that actually mean? And I was like, you can't talk to somebody like that. He said he was in. And it was like Matt wanted to make sure he was the real deal.
I love Matt for that.
And I was literally, there was me and Brian's wife, Misha, who is incredible. And I was sat there and I was so embarrassed. And Brian and Matt went off for a little walk around his business and stuff. And Matt came back in the door and he went, yep, he's in.
He's all right.
And I was like, I think that's really important. Just because someone says they are, well, why?
Yeah, and what's his
What
interest?
is-
This is probably a whole other podcast, because one of the things that we teach people very early on as Startup Disruptors is you actually choose your customers and your partners. They don't choose you. And that's why 80%, in fact, if you look at 100% of people that most people think they're targeting at, 97% will never buy from you and 3% will, but that might take up to 5 to 10 years to actually realise that relationship, which is why you need sales volume. But what I would say is you need the right people. It doesn't matter. If you've got the wrong people, it will become, and I talked about low social aspiration earlier, it will become a victim of its own success very quickly, because those kinds of low vibrational behaviours destroy you and destroy companies quicker than anything else. So actually what you're looking for are the people who have, vision. There's certain qualities and certain behaviours that come with successful people. Mindset, unassailable mindset, not caring what anybody else thinks. Sorry, I don't care what anybody thinks anymore. I'm past that stage. Perimenopause and menopause helps you with that, Sandie. That's another podcast for another day.
Absolutely.
But also I think I've worked in male-dominated environments all my life and had to compete in those environments all my life. So therefore, I'm built a certain way, which is unique for a woman. But I would say to you, you've chosen well. You've learned some really tough lessons, which we've all learned along the way. And you'll continue to learn more because it's a growth game. And you're not actually competing against anybody else. You're only competing against yourself.
Yes.
And if people out there listening to this realise that actually you don't have competitors, because there aren't any, because it's just you. You're competing against yourself and actually wanting to create your mission, vision and values, and that's the most important thing. So hold on to that.
Yeah.
And I would like to say to you, I've seen you go through so much growth, which I will always support you with, and I'll continue hopefully to grow with you and help you as much as I possibly feasibly can until there's the last breath in my body is extinguished.
I will just show up anyway.
Yeah, I know. Just at the most inappropriate moments, it's fine.
You always know with me, I'm a bit, that's where we are quite similar, is I'm on a mission and you're either on or you're off. And that's okay. But don't blag me. Don't say to me you're in if you're not really in. Let your no be no, your yes be yes, and then we go through life really a lot easier. And I've always said to the team, we're staying in our lane. We are a safe space and we like everybody to use our space that is there for the right reasons.
Yeah, but I don't think you are staying in your lane, and I wouldn't want you to, because otherwise there's no growth. And
but that's what,
and I think
that's where in a year's time, Becky, we're going to say goodbye
It's
for
just that
now.
the lane gets a bit wider,
Well, you know me, I get over anxious about change. I don't like change.
It'll be fine.
And so for me, it's like, I've got the next project in my head. It's there. It's ready to go.
It'll be fine.
And I've even got the name, Bex.
Are we saying what the name is?
No,
okay.
because it's not there to be copyright yet.
Oh, okay.
I've got to get all
Trademarking.
my trademarks in place for
Trademarking
that,
in.
because that will go franchising. That's what we're franchising, not the name Spark Community Space, because I believe there should only be one, and that's our home.
Yeah.
And so Spark Community Space, that name will only ever be for Portsmouth. And the rest of it, watch this space.
Wow, okay, because now we're at 34, 38. We probably
Yes.
do need to
So it's a bye from me.
So what I'd say is it's a mutual love fest as always.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for inviting me. It's been an honour to talk
Watch
to you
out
both.
for the knicker drawer.
And watch out for the procrastination on the sock drawer next.
Absolutely.
I think we'll
Yeah,
look at the sock drawer.
yeah.
All right, love you guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.